This is like Simp Troll 9000.
No, I'm really saying what I think.
You don't think Jack wouldn't be as dense in a fucking discussion like that? That's first of all. Like, he wouldn't say, "Oh, I don't know what you mean." He does that sometimes, granted, but what makes you think that he's just gonna play stupid the whole time? Like, no. Like, Jack knows this stuff, and he
Look, I just
agrees.
don't think that you're not gonna change Jack's mind, and you're not gonna like
What makes you
make him
say
look like
that?
he's wrong or anything.
Godless,
Um,
you need to like you're suppressing the truth right now.
I've known Jack a long time. Like, I've never seen him.
That
I've only
doesn't
seen like
mean
maybe
that I
other black.
can't put my dick in his mouth. Doesn't matter. Like, I could be, the guy could be like serving in
It's
Afghanistan
going in.
and in
You're
Iraq for
Arianus,
like
you're
50
delusional. You're
years.
delusional. That's not gonna happen.
What do you mean I'm delusional? How am I delusional? Okay, what part of my debate game prevents me from like wrecking Jack? Like, what part of that like is like the bar, like Jack likes to say? Because it certainly can't be about the content of the argument, right? I'm just like wondering like what prevents me from doing that under your view. Because okay, you want like the rhetoric or like the I can do the rhetoric and the sassy and the cocky shit. I can do that. There's no problem. But I just rather not do that. I want to stick when I do these things. I want to stick to the actual content. I'm not a monkey or anything, you know.
That's fine, but you can just have a discussion with him. But it's still not gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. Just wait and see.
You're too optimistic.
Where
That
agents.
wouldn't follow.
I mean,
Jack, are you there?
He might also say that,
Well, let's stop speculating.
I think he would say that. I think he would say that it's in some sense not possible to have all false
What do you
beliefs.
say? It's not. What do you say, Detroyer? Please. So, what do you say? What do you say that it's impossible for? It's logically impossible for me to both be an agent, and that it's also the case that most of my beliefs are false.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that.
So it's not possible that you have agency in this world and global skepticism is possible.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that.
Wait. To be clear, I mean that seems to me a stronger claim that you might have to make, right? Because you could say that global skepticism is possible, but not for agents, in the sense that you can't be an agent and be in a global skeptical situation.
Oh, but I think
no.
Couldn't Darth Arianus modify his argument to accommodate that easily?
Does it just say it's impossible for agents, or just given the domain of agency?
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to make the bridge between. I don't, I thought the wait. You do want to say that you can't be an agent and most of your or like all of your beliefs be false, but you also want to say you can't be an agent and be such that you don't know most or all of your beliefs, something like that. Is that you want to make that stronger claim too?
I don't think it's going to matter, right? Because it seems like the whole thing is going to turn on this premise 3, which I just don't understand at all. Like,
Well, if you
I feel
if you
like
accept,
I need to. I don't feel like I need to resist premise 1 and 2. You know.
Well, what Darth said or suggested was that value realism entails
in the sense that I'm
some
using it,
metaphysical realism.
in the sense that I'm using it.
The sense being trying to capture the view, I assume.
Yeah, that there
If you're
are
trying to,
these like mind. My God, stop talking. That there are these like mind independent properties that are held in the world, and you're committed to this like correspondence notion of truth not being reducible to our conceptual schemes. That's what I said. That's how exactly how I construed realism as being.
Yeah, I don't get that, because I would assume that Putnam's argument. I mean, I'm not familiar with Putnam's argument, but I just I it, I imagine that any view that he's attacking is not a view that I hold, because I subscribe to a pragmatist epistemology. So it's hard for me to imagine what kind of metaphysical realism he's attacking, um, that would be compatible with a pragmatist epistemology.
That's compatible with a pragmatist epistemology.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me that generally, I mean, the term metaphysical realism is not a term that I like. You know,
same.
I understand Cartesian, and if you want to talk about Cartesianism or transcendental realism, I think there's a third one, or even correspondence theories of truth, right? Um, then I can sort of understand that, and it seems to me that's sort of what I imagine is the real target of people who are attacking what's usually called metaphysical realism,
Well,
right?
I
Or
just take
views.
it that it's sort of like an umbrella of those views,
Yeah, okay,
of those
fine. So
different idealisms.
if metaphysical realism means something like Cartesianism, correspondence theory of truth, what Kant calls transcendental realism, then I just assume that I'm not committed to any of that. I'd be very surprised if you could show that I'm, any metaphysical commitments I have commit me to that, including, realism about evaluative properties.
So that's what I wanted clarification on because when you say that value properties are external, how would you construe that under pragmatism?
Well, is there some reason why it's going to be different from thinking that clouds are external?
Well, no, but when I talked to Danny, he wasn't even clear as to like what I was meaning when I said that value properties were mind independent in a way where those value properties actually are the case independent of our conceptual schemes. So when you say
Yeah.
that yeah, so when you say that value properties are real, how is how is real being construed there under
But
pragmatism?
do you think that saying that there would be clouds, whether or not there were minds, commits me to transcendental realism?
No, I didn't say that. I know
But
you're
then
not
I'm
a
just not
transcendental
sure.
real.
But then I'm not sure what is it about value properties that's disanalogous to clouds, that means that if you believed in them,
No,
in the kind of way that I believe in them, or that Bilgrami believes in them, that commits you to some kind of transcendental realism.
no, no. To be fair, I didn't say that it would commit you necessarily to transcendental realism. I was just
No, but
genuinely asking.
that's
I
what
was,
premise 3 is going to turn on, right? The
um,
whole point
I
is
don't,
that
I don't,
somehow value realism
I
commits
don't
you to
think so.
metaphysical realism.
Yeah, but, yeah, but when I came up with the argument, I was construing value realism in the sense that um you're saying that these value properties are mind independent, right? And given the set of
In the same
inherent
way that clouds are. Yeah, in the same, well, maybe not precisely the same way, but see, the point is broadly the same way. Now, maybe there's some ways in which they're not the same, and maybe you could try to um, take what's different about them and say, well, this requires a stronger metaphysical, it's not going to be an issue for clouds on this epistemology, but there is going to be an issue for value. But I just don't know how that argument is going to go.
Well, I think one argument that I could give is that, like, you might construe clouds as being external of our like epistemic notions of like what a cloud is, and um, I'm just going to take it that the disanalogous part there is that I think you could construct predictive models about, I don't know, clouds or, I don't know, chairs and things like that. But I don't think that given your pragmatism, you could say the same thing about value
Yeah, well, that's
or like
true.
any set of
That's true. But why does
properties.
that commit me? But why does that fact commit me to transcendental realism?
Well, because well, I'm trying to infer here. So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think one commitment is that um, whatever set of normative disagreements there are between agents, um, it doesn't attempt to capture how uh, the normative status of those properties actually are.
No, but you're talking about if somebody looks at the same situation. So let's say somebody's beating somebody up. You've
Mm-hmm.
got two observers, and one says that's wrong, and the other says that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on my view, there isn't a fact of the matter about who's right. Is that transcendental realism?
Mm, it sounds more like transcendental idealism, but the point is that even even if you think that you have a model where there's no way to correctly or incorrectly, there's no fact of the matter as to how you perceive those things. I think under certain commitments that a realist might give, they might say that you might be mistaken or you don't have epistemic access to those
No, but
mind
that's
independent
but that's
norms.
the whole point. My understanding of what metaphysical realism is usually meant to be, right? Which is what I'm taking to be something roughly equivalent to Cartesianism or transcendental realism, is the idea that the beliefs you have are, it's in principle possible for them to be like completely out of sync with the way
Mm-hmm.
things are independently of your mind, right? But see, the epistemology that I'm imagining is one where perception is not actually a normative notion. So there isn't correct or incorrect perception, right? It seems to me once you sort of give that up, once you sort of give up on the idea of misperception, right, you're sort of giving up on this idea of there being a right or, there's this being this way the world could be that's at odds with the way that you believe it to be.
Yeah, but I have a question. When you say it's the case that there's no fact of the matter pertaining to perception, how are you, when you say it's the case that there's no fact of the matter pertaining to how you perceive those properties, do you take it's the case there to be a predictive claim, or do you just take it to be some, do you interpret it's the case in like some realist sense that what that these are, this is the actual state of affairs independent of our conceptual schemes?
That there's no fact of the matter about it? I mean, it's a negative claim.
No, it's the case that there's no correct way to perceive value properties. Do you
Yeah,
interpret?
I'm saying that's an a priori truth, right? Because when you analyze what it is, what it could really mean to perceive something, right? The idea is that there's some fact about the world, right, which can appear in, it has a mode of appearance for agents, right? And agents are going to be constructed in different ways so they can have differential perceptions, which is to say that the same things can have different modes of appearance, right? And it's a view which doesn't understand what it could even mean to say that there was a right or wrong way to perceive some fact. Right?
Right. So when you say you question what that means, are you just saying that it's just necessarily false that you can't be an agent and perceive those like value properties correctly?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't. That just wouldn't be intelligible on this sort of picture. To say the agent could like correctly or incorrectly perceive things, you'd have to be a metaphysical realist, I think, for that to be intelligible.
Okay, so let me think about it this way. So when you say that um, it's like an a priori truth that those in order for me to be an agent, I need to have there needs to be like these certain conditions, and you want to hold that in conjunction with pragmatism, where it's just entailed by pragmatism that there's no correct or incorrect way to perceive value, because value doesn't make any predictions. Are you then committed to then saying that um, any sort of like claim given by what I construed as metaphysical realism, that those views are incoherent if you hold them in conjunction with agency?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I think there, well, then I don't see why you would disagree with. So maybe, maybe we're just like the problem is that we're using. I'm thinking of value realism as the way Putnam describes it, plus like a little bit what you said. So what I originally thought is that your view is that you're committed to these mind independent objects or these like theory independent objects out there in the world, and no matter how we come to perceive those properties still exist. I was construing that as metaphysical realism. So when someone like Bilgrami says that there's like a correct or incorrect way to perceive those value properties, and that that view you want to say presupposes transcendental realism, right?
Well, it seems to me that it does. I mean, I
And
just don't understand how
if you
how as a pragmatist you could understand value that way.
and would you say that if you're committed to transcendental realism, you would have to hold metaphysical realism in the background as I described it?
Well, I'm taking those to be basically coextensive theses.
Yeah, so if they're coextensive and we agree with premise one, premise two, and the conclusion of the first of the first part of my syllogism, it would just follow that under Bilgrami's view, we couldn't be agents.
Well, Bilgrami doesn't commit, right? He doesn't give an argument for the view that there are correct or incorrect value perceptions, that there are value misperceptions, right? Or there can be value misperceptions. He just says that's his own view. The
Yeah.
picture that he presents is compatible with relativism, right? And on the relativist view, there's just not going to be a fact of the matter. There isn't going to be correct or incorrect perception. So I just don't know why anybody would call that type of realism. I don't know why anybody would think that type of realism commits you to this, transcendental realism or metaphysical realism or Cartesianism or whatever.
Well, because I just take it that his view is going to conflict with the pragmatist epistemology
No,
because it's
his view, his
his view.
personal view,
I'm
yeah,
saying his view does.
yeah, his view. I think his view. I don't understand how his view does not fall afoul of a pragmatist epistemology. That's his personal view. But the view, well, all he argues for is that value properties are, a necessary posit in order for there to be agency, right? And so if there's agency, there are value properties in the world that are external to minds, right? And that's consistent with a relativist picture. And so on a relativist picture, I don't see that there's going to be any inconsistency with a pragmatist epistemology. So I don't think there's going to be any threat.
Yeah, I understand that part. I just
Okay.
don't see if you think, because this argument was intended in the way that Putnam was construing it. So maybe we could just like talk about like Bilgrami's view. Bilgrami's view, if you accept that he's going to adopt like if he's going to adopt transcendental realism, right? If he were to make an argument for such a position that the one he holds to, that there's a correct way to perceive value, that I don't see what the restriction is in him affirming metaphysical realism.
I
I don't
agree
see
with
how
that.
transcendental realism is compatible with metaphysical anti-realism.
No, I agree that, as far as I can tell, Bilgrami's view that there are value misperceptions, right, would just seem to commit him to transcendental realism.
Right.
I don't see how he gets out of it. Now I have a hypothesis about how he might try to get out of it, and I really need to read through this paper that I think might clarify that question, maybe sort of deliver how he gets out of it. But I just haven't had time to go through
And I
it
also
here.
don't see how that restricts him from metaphysical realism. So if you agree with premise one and premise two and the first conclusion of my argument, then it would just follow from his view. If metaphysical realism is true, then we couldn't be agents.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So let's be clear here. You want to say that this value perceptualist view that he has commits him to saying that we can't be agents?
I think so.
Okay. So when it goes back to your view, when you say that uh, value doesn't generate predictive expectations, and it's the case that there's just merely perception. Perception isn't normative. All these things. Would you say that you're just constructing those claims in a way that's dependent upon the predictions in your model, or is it like some fact about how the external world is like, or let's just say independent of your schema?
I don't understand the question.
Well, I just don't know what it means then to say that you're going to say that these things are you're going to make these set of claims under pragmatism. You're committed to saying that value doesn't generate predictive expectations, right? Is that claim itself just a predictive claim, or is it some
No,
claim?
it's not a predictive claim. That just follows
Oh,
from an
okay,
analysis. Yeah, that
from the
just
view.
follows from an analysis of things like agency, value,
Okay,
intentionality, and so on.
so so really, what you're importing here is like more a priori truths in order to arrive at that conclusion.
Well, it's a conceptual analysis.
Okay. And if I were to say that um, agency, in order for there to be agents, um, there has to be like some sort of like relation entailed from the fact that we perceive value. I mean, I posed this question to you the first time we talked. Since you think that the relation between the value and the valuer isn't cast out modally, how are you understanding the relation?
The idea would be that if you fail to be in accord with some commitment, well, let me put it, so had you, if you've ever failed to be in accord with a commitment, or when you ever will, or when anybody ever will be in accord with a commitment, if under those conditions, when they are criticized, they will accept criticism
In light
for
of failure.
yeah, and they will undertake to engage in self-corrective action. And in
Okay.
cases where they do not, the cases where they do not are not ex ante specifiable. That would be the basic idea.
So would you say that the propensity for the agent to self-correct, given the other set of conditions, is a dispositional fact?
Well, there's going to be a generalization, but it's going to be different from other dispositions in that the exceptions cannot be ex ante specified.
Okay. And what you mean by conditions there is, how are you cashing out the conditions?
I'm saying there are going to be times when
Instances in which, if an agent were to like have those have the second order disposition to self-correct,
there are
then
going to be times when those behaviors are not observed. And if we seek an explanation for why they were not observed, those the 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 explanatory facts are not of the kind that can be ex ante specified.
okay, but that's just a thesis about like pertaining to like how there's instances in which the agent would have the propensity to self-correct given those other entailments, right? But what I'm asking is like, do you understand the relation between, so I wanted to ask you this, do you understand the relation between an agent perceiving something as desirable and the inherent desirability of the cake? Is that like, do you have like a causal notion there? Do you,
No,
is there,
I don't think it. I think that it would be equivocating on cause. So you could call it a cause, but then you're just going to have two different notions of causation.
okay, so because I took it that you held to singular causation, but that's fine.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
could call
get
it
it.
singular causation. What I'm saying is that I don't think it's not clear that singular causation is a species that's a member of some genus of causation that it shares with a different species of causation that we call Humean causation.
Okay. So what exactly is your, because I don't think there has been, at least from you, there hasn't, and this isn't like a strife on you. I just haven't heard an analysis as to what would make those objects desirable in a way that's held fixed.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, when you say that something has the property of desirability, right? That the cake itself is desirable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the case that I desire it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How exactly are you understanding value? Do you think that value is like dependent on those natural objects? What do you
Yeah,
use the word
there's
dependence
going to
there?
be a weak dependency relation, sure.
Um, because I was trying to ask you if you think that the dependence relation between value and the natural object is synchronic or diachronic. Or
You
you
mean
don't
that you
understand
have
it.
the natural fact first and then the value emerges
Yeah,
in
like
time?
how, like I'm trying to see how
No, I
you
don't think it's
construct
like
this
that.
thesis.
Yeah, I don't
Also,
think it's like that.
value, in your view, value has never emerged out of natural objects. They're just always somehow embedded in natural objects. Would you say
That's
that?
right. Mm-hmm.
But see, but the idea there is that. Um, so this is what I was asking you the other day. So it's not logically possible under your view for the physical facts to be different. If there's one less atom in this world, but the value properties are the same. The value facts are the same.
Well, I
You
think
think
it's just
that's
going to.
logically impossible?
Well, I think it's just going to. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I really understand how you're fixing the value facts without reference to the physical facts.
You're just saying you don't know what it means to say that the value facts are independent of the physical facts.
In the relevant sense, right? Because like, um, if you take a crumb away from uh, a brownie, right? There's presumably that brownie, that crumb of a brownie has some kind of um, valence, right? It has evaluative properties.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
But if you're denying, but if you're denying the assumption that I'm making that the value properties are the value facts are independent of the physical facts somehow, then are you then committed to? Because it sounds to me like then you would be committed to saying that the value facts just directly correspond to the natural facts somehow.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, just take the physical composition, or let's just take the chemical composition of, water in this world being H2O, right? You're saying if the chemical composition of H2O were to be different, then somehow the desirability of it would also have to be different.
I just don't know how you're fixing. How are you fixing the sameness across possible worlds there? What are you holding fixed?
Um, I mean, I don't. It appears to me that they're not fixed, right? Because if there's a world where water equals XYZ, I think that um, that obviously isn't going to be equally desirable as water being H2O in this world, right? So I don't think I'm holding them fixed.
I thought you were holding fixed the um, what? I thought you were holding fixed um, the properties that constitute the sense of water.
The well, the well, the properties that constitute the sense of water, I don't think is. I'm not committed to saying that they're fixed across all possible worlds. I think it's
No,
possible
I'm
for there to
talking
be
about
a
the
world.
worlds that you're. I'm talking about the worlds that you're comparing, right? You're saying there's something that's being held fixed, and there's something that's changing, right? So the idea is going to be there there's a liquid that quenches your thirst, that flows in rivers and streams and comes out of taps and is in oceans, that falls out of the sky on cloudy days and so on, right? So if you want to say all the value facts could be the same, it, even if those even
Physical
if
facts.
what's picked out by those conceptions has a different molecular structure, I don't see why that couldn't be the case in the two worlds.
Right, but I'm asking you if if there's some fact about the chemical composition of water that isn't identical to this world, would you say then that the value of that water is different? the value of twin earth water, for example, is not equally desirable as water in this world, where water equals H2O.
Well, I mean, on twin Earth, presumably it's equally desirable.
So in twin earth, it's equally desirable for me to perceive the value of
No,
XYZ,
I'm saying for
and for
agents
me to
on
perceive
twin.
the
I'm saying
value
for
of
agents on
H2O.
twin Earth. I'm saying for agents on twin Earth, I don't see any reason why twin Earth water couldn't be as desirable to them as water is to people on Earth.
You're saying that there's no like logical bar that would
Yeah,
prevent.
I don't. Well, I don't know. I don't see a logical bar.
Well, I think, given your view of agency, I think there might be a lot. There might be a logical possibility there, because you want to say that um, in order for us to be agents, at some point we have to intend and view certain things as being more valuable than other things, because if we were like, let's just say, in a burden's ass scenario, then we couldn't deliberate on anything.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so in the twin earth, where water equals XYZ is equally desirable as to the agent as water equals H2O. If
Mm-hmm.
those things are equally desirable, I don't see how they could deliberate.
You mean if somehow a sample was placed of each kind to the same agent?
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, you cut out. What was that?
If you're saying a sample of each substance were placed in front of the same agent?
Yeah, if I were to present you with a sample of like water equals XYZ in this first choice, and then in the second choice, water equals H2O, if you're holding that those things
No,
are
no,
equally
no, no.
desirable.
I thought you were imagining a case where there's an agent who's given a sample who's placed has two glasses placed before him, one with twin earth water and one with
Water
water in it.
or earth water, yeah.
Yeah, earth water,
Yeah, so
terrestrial water.
if you're saying that those things are equally desirable, then given that scenario, I don't see, given your view of agency, how they would be able to deliberate. You're gonna have to explain me
I
how
mean,
they
I
would.
don't understand. I don't. Why do you think Bourdain's app situations pose a problem for human beings rather than gods? Right? If you couldn't make a decision, right,
No,
you could flip a coin, or I mean,
I'm just
yeah,
asking.
maybe you could starve to death.
No, but Jack, you don't understand. I don't. I myself don't possess the same concept of agency as you do.
No,
So
no,
I'm
I'm
trying to
asking you why you
understand.
think it would be a problem on my view, right?
Well, because I think that if you're, so I think what you said
It
earlier
would
was
be a
that
problem
if,
for God. God would not be able, presumably, God would not be able to act if
sure,
he was presented with two.
sure,
I mean, there could
I
be a
can grant that.
hypothetical human agent like that who might starve, just like Borodin's ass. I suppose it's possible, right, that there could be an agent like that, but
Well,
um,
if you're construing that human agents in this example act on the basis of reasons, but there's no determination as to, as given from the agent's point of view, what course of action is more rational, right? Then I don't see how exactly they would be able to deliberate if both of them are like equally reason giving.
I don't understand what kind of. What if I could just grant? Let's say they can't deliberate and they starve. How is that a problem for my view?
Was Well, are you then committed? Because let's just say that they have the intention to deliberate, but the example in question prevents them from doing so. Um, do you think that that block that's posed by the world in question is like something nomological, and it's not determined by the normative facts?
Why would it be nomological?
Well, because I think that you're saying that even if it's the case that I wouldn't be able to deliberate, it still doesn't like take away my agency. So there's some agent independent fact of the matter as to like why I can't do X, Y, Z, why I can't deliberate.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, I'm not saying that you have to deliberate at every moment. I'm just saying that if you have a reason to deliberate, but you can't, are you construing that as a natural fact itself or a non-natural fact? I think I've been pretty clear with this.
Obviously, it's a natural fact. It's a non-natural fact if it involves agency or intentionality. Why
Agents.
would there be a mystery about that? I
No,
don't get
what
it.
you're saying. Look, you're saying that they're equally desirable, and that would cause me to not be able to deliberate on something, but it's because those sets of values that are external from myself, right? In the like twin water example and the water example, that's causing me from not deliberating. I'm saying like what prevents you from saying that there isn't also some natural fact of the matter that doesn't have to do with our agency entirely?
A natural fact of the matter about what?
Well, a natural fact of the matter as to why um, we wouldn't have the deliberative process there.
Because the deliberative processes are underdetermined by the natural facts.
Deliberative process are underdetermined by the natural facts. So
Yeah.
you're saying that when you say underdetermined, you mean like epistemically speaking, there's some epistemic gap between the natural facts and the value facts, or how are you construing underdetermined?
I don't think it would be right to understand it as epistemic.
Well, then how are you cashing out underdetermination there?
There, I mean, there isn't going to be some nomological there isn't going to be some nomological law that can be appealed to explain what the um, non-normative facts are, given full knowledge of the normative facts.
Mm, why, for example, why couldn't a naturalist say that those things are underdetermined, but there's nevertheless not going to be an ontological gap there between the natural facts and the value facts?
You're saying, why is it? I mean, that's just to ask for an argument for non-naturalism.
Yeah, it sounds to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like you're construing that there is a problem of underdetermination between the physical facts and the value facts, right? And that underdetermination problem poses a problem for naturalism. But it also proves that there is an ontological gap between the physical facts and the value facts. Because if you're making that claim, I don't see how that follows. If you're making that sort of
If
argument
I'm making
for
what claim?
non-natural, that if you say that uh, the value facts are underdetermined by the physical facts, that that renders naturalism as being false.
Well, that's how I'm understanding non-naturalism.
Well, why couldn't, for example, why can't a naturalist say that? Maybe someone like Richard Branford, why can't they say, yeah, there is an underdetermination, there is a problem of underdetermination, but that doesn't entail that necessarily there isn't an identity relation between the physical facts and the normative facts, or
So
how
you're
the
asking what
physical.
the reason is why there can't be an identity relation?
Well, I'm asking that, and I'm asking why you think that there's an ontological gap as well. Either way,
I mean, it just sounds like if you want to say why is it you don't think there can be an identity relation, you're just asking what's your justification for being a non-naturalist?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I would.
that there's no simple answer to.
Mm, simple answer in regards to you don't think that so you want to say that you don't understand what it means to say that um the physical is the physical facts are synthetically identical to the mental facts, or in this case the value facts.
Well, as it happens, I don't understand that claim, but I'm not even sure I need to say that, right? Like, it seems to me if I understood that, I might still have abundant reasons to reject that view.
But to be clear, your abundant reasons depend upon how you're conceptually analyzing agency.
Yep.
Right. Um, so really, so for example, like a type A physicalist, right, who thinks that the physical facts are analytically identical to the mental facts, or we could just use it in this example. We could just apply it to this scenario that the physical facts are identical to the value facts, and the identity relation there is analytic. You're just going to say that they don't know what they're talking about there, or it's just unintelligible.
I mean, that just seems to me to fall afoul of an open question argument or a rule following argument.
Um, okay, so, and to go back to our example, you want to say that it's logically possible that the value facts aren't identical to the physical facts
It's logically
as a reason?
possible.
That it's logically, let's just instead of using the term mental here, because we're not talking about philosophy of mind specifically, let's just apply it to our like conversation here. You want to say that it's logically impossible that the value facts aren't identical to the physical facts?
Oh, I would want to say that probably, but I'm not sure I need to say that.
But the but the type A physicalist doesn't. They're just going to say that if you were to present an argument like that, it would be question begging,
Well,
because
that's
under their view it's not logically possible.
yeah. I'm not sure why I should care about that though.
Okay. Detroit, do you want to say something on this?
Sorry, I haven't been listening.